Hi there, and welcome to this video series where I'll be searching for the best trading strategy for cryptocurrency trading. In each video I'm going to test a strategy that is explained in a YouTube video, trading site or is publicly available for use. I will test the strategy on its probability to make profits in the markets by backtesting it with multiple digital asset pairs on their largest possible backtest periods. The end result of this test is then compared with the results of earlier tested strategies. Do you like these videos and do you want to see me test more of them in the future? Then please click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. Now please remember that this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everything you see here is hypothetical and based on historic data, so there's no guarantee the investigated strategy will also make profits in the future. I am also not a professional, so always do your own research or consult a professional before using any information in real trading. In this video I'm going to install and test the much requested Nostalgia for Infinity strategy. This strategy is available on the following GitHub site and all credits for developing this code go to its makers. To get the NFIX code, go to this GitHub site. There you will see 3 versions of the NFI strategy. In the description of the repository it says that the NFI Next is an older strategy on the 5-minute time frame. The NFI NG is a 50-minute time frame strategy but is not under development, and the current maintained version is the Nostalgia for Infinity X file. So therefore I will use the NFIX maintained code for my test this time. By the way, you can also see that this strategy is recently changed, so indeed it is actively maintained by the developers. For testing this strategy I will use the general recommendations for use. So I will change my config file to only use maximum of 6 open trades. A pair list of 40 to 80 stablecoin pairs is preferred, which I have configured 50 pairs. But the recommended volume pair list only will work in real trading or forward testing, so I keep this to my configured default static pair list. I do not have a blacklist, but the static pair list is well configured I think, so I do not have to use this. Now downloading the script is pretty easy when you use wget. Just go to the GitHub repository of the strategy and a little bit down you can see the 3 Python files with the code. In this case I'm going to use the NFIX code, so just click on it and select the raw button to copy the URL. Then in the strategies directory of your Freqtrade installation type wget and paste the copied URL behind wget and then click enter. This way you can download the file directly to your computer. Now, because I'm not familiar with this strategy, I really would like to know how this strategy works. However, the README file only contains information on how to install this file in your Freqtrade bot and what the preferred configurations are. Luckily for us, this NFI repository also has a wiki that contains documentation, so I read it to prepare for this video. Reading through this wiki, however, turned out to be a small disappointment. The documentation on the setup, the specific configs, extra tips and other resources have been written. But the most interesting part for me is the page that tells me how the strategy works, which indicators it uses and how buy and sell signals are determined. But unfortunately the developer of this code did not start to write this page yet. Now I still want to know how the strategy works just to get an idea about it. So I took the effort to look at the code the developers made. And then I realized why the developers did not yet start to write the strategy out in human readable form or pseudocode in the wiki. Because this strategy consists of almost 11,000 lines of code and it's pretty complex to read. Also, the amount of comments that are available in the code are scarce and did not help me very much. Now you have to understand that I'm not a professional Python programmer like the developers of this code, so to see all these lines of code without any context or explanation is somewhat intimidating and a little bit out of my league. However, I'm not afraid to try to explain the code from a high-level perspective and stuff that I do understand or recognize. I will not go over it line by line because that would take hours, but I will point out some interesting stuff. And you should be aware that I could be totally wrong on my interpretations of the code, so you are warned. But if you have some information on how the strategy works, I invite you to write this in the comment section of this video. So to start from the top of the code, in this first section the necessary libraries are loaded in the strategy. And you can see that the ta-lib, qt-pylib and pandas TA libraries will be loaded, but also some additional indicators like RMI, Zima and Vidya and Ichimoku from another technical library. So a lot of indicators from different libraries will be used. This section gives us some comments on how to act on trades you do not want to sell with a loss or only want to sell when reaching a certain amount of profit. For this you have to create some additional files on your Freqtrade installation which should contain the trade IDs or pairs. This next section is recognizable and it contains the default settings each Freqtrade strategy file should contain, like ROI, stop loss, time frame and more. And I can see here that the ROI and stop loss will not be used in this strategy because they are set to 100 and -99. There's no trailing stop loss. And the time frame for this strategy is set to 5 minutes. And I guess that there will be additional informative time frames added to the data frame. I guess that this strategy will look at higher time frames to determine if there should be a buy or sell signal here. Now these settings also tell me that other pairs and higher time frames will be used to determine if there should be a buy or sell signal on the 5-minute time frame. And this section looks also very interesting. It looks like this strategy can rebuy the same pair, but I'm not sure if these are consecutive rebuys or parallel rebuys. Now this whole dictionary of buy conditions looks like it has 65 combinations, which I think makes these buy signals very flexible and very complex at the same time. But I can be wrong in my thinking, of course. Luckily for us there's only one sell condition here that we can enable or disable. Now this whole section with dictionaries has all the indicators that determine under which conditions a pair will be bought. It consists of around 26 indicator parameter settings, which sometimes will also point to other methods below to figure out if a pair should be bought. And below these 65 dictionaries there are some configurations that load the Freqtrade config file to determine which pairs are used and check them against the optional NFI hold files you could create to hold certain pairs. There will also be some methods that filter out the top traded coins and the coins that are top grossing. All this coin information is copied to a coin metrics data frame. And then these top coins will be used and added to a whitelist for further trading, I think. Then there is another section that is quite interesting. Apparently this strategy can change the stake amount and position per coin configured. This will then be used to buy or rebuy a coin. Here this section checks how many entries a coin apparently has. And next, especially this section gives me an indication that a pair can have multiple parallel trades open with a maximum of 3. But each trade has another stake amount set by using a stake calculator here. The next part of the code contains the method that defines the sell signals. There are 8 sell signals that are a combination of indicators and candle information. What is interesting here is that these sell signals also have a sell reason. So when we are going to backtest, it is highly possible that we are going to see the sell reason as well. This way we can determine which reason is used the most for selling. The next part of the code has the stop loss methods. These will be triggered when the trade is in a loss and will close the position if all the conditions are met. And next there is another type of sell order section which only sells if the basic condition is that the candle closes above the EMA 200 and then more indicator combinations to determine the sell conditions. And here also when the close price is below the 200 EMA. Also there is a method that sells after a pair has recovered and when it has a certain amount of profit. Then there is a method that acts like a trailing stop loss and many more conditions. Then, after a long list of sell reasons, there is a section that uses the informative pairs to determine if a pair should be bought. These informative pairs are on the 1 day, 1 hour and 50-minute time frames. So it's highly probable that these time frames do not work when backtesting on multiple time frames. Here is a small section where normal indicators and parameters are created. And from this point there are 65 types of buy condition combinations, each with their own name. And then, at the very end of the file, there is some code that provides us with some custom indicators. Apparently these indicators are not available in the earlier imported indicator libraries. So, to recap this complete code in some very oversimplified steps and completely dependent on my own interpretation. Pairs are selected on predefined circumstances like top traded coins or top grossing. Informative pairs on higher time frames are created to determine further if buy conditions are met, including the indicators on their time frames. Then the indicators on the traded time frame are created, and then 65 different combinations of around 26 indicator parameters are used to determine if a pair will be bought. Then a whole bunch of sell methods are used that are based on profit, stop loss position or the current price and indicator combinations. And finally, buy and sell parameters are set, which use all the different earlier parameter configurations, and finally buy and sell pairs. But now the proof of the pudding. Will the strategy be able to make profits during backtesting, and how probable will it be that it will provide us with profits in real trading? Let's see this in action. Not only is the strategy script heavy on the coding and my understanding, but the strategy is also heavy on the processor and memory of my computer. Unfortunately, but not unexpected, I only had backtest results from the 15 and 5-minute time frame. The most probable reason for not having any other time frame backtest results is because these time frames are informative for making decisions on the lower time frames. Another issue I got while backtesting is that I could not get any good backtest results on the 5-minute time frame. This strategy seems to be very heavy on the computer's resources, and I had to figure out what time range gave me some backtest results at the minimum. The complete dataset timed out, and then I started to decrease this time frame, but every time with the same results. A timeout because of memory problems. So I started to decrease the time range until I get some backtest results. Therefore I could only backtest over a year's period of the 5-minute time frame. The last thing I have encountered was the report on these backtests. Under regular circumstances there are only 4 or 5 sell reasons at the max, and it is easy to understand why pairs are sold. But because this strategy has so many sell combinations in its code, at some point I got 718 sell reasons in my report, which also points to different sell tags. And because there is no clear information on how to interpret these results, I have to make some semi-informed assumptions. Otherwise I cannot fill in my sheet to compare the different strategies. Maybe I'm giving this strategy not the attention that it deserves, and maybe my testing method and infrastructure sucks for this strategy. And if somebody thinks it does, then please let me know and show us the results by linking to your video or website where we can see the results of the good performances. Anyway, back to the results of this backtest. Because of this problematic backtesting on the 5-minute time frame, with its limited time range testing, I'm inclined to give more value to the 50-minute time frame results, and because these results are not bad at all, I will use these in the overall strategy leak. So yes, this time I'm going on the safe side. So let's proceed with the hyperparameter optimization section of this video, because I have something interesting to say about that as well. Now, because of the nature of this strategy, with its over 700 reasons to sell, hyperparameter optimization is not really an option, I think. In addition to all these sell reasons, I really do not think that optimizing ROI and stop loss are of much use here. Even worse, it will probably break the strategy completely, I think. So before I proceed, first a slide that shows you the way I do these backtests to find out if a strategy is profitable. For this specific strategy I had to make some minor changes to the rules to give the strategy the best chance to show its performance. So this time it's not completely accurate, but I have said where I deviated from these rules in the video here. If you want to use this strategy, then just be aware that you always should do your own research and try to forward test this strategy before any real trading. So now let's see how this NFIX strategy performs in comparison with my earlier tests. The NFIX is a strategy with many rules and parameters that determine when a pair should be bought or sold. The code is very complex, and only if you dig deep into it you might be able to find out how it all works, since the documentation is absent. I personally am not against a complex strategy, because if it works, it works, but you should at least have to know how it works, even when it's complex. Otherwise you cannot troubleshoot what's wrong when it suddenly does not perform like expected or backtested. Also, the whole problem of not properly testing on the 5-minute time frame over the complete dataset was disappointing. But since this strategy is heavy on memory and calculations because of all these rules, I'm not surprised. So I decided to take the test results on the 15-minute time frame and use them in my overall league. And as you can see here, it entered on the second spot of the list. What strikes me the most is the high win rate and its low risk of ruin. Also, the drawdown is very reasonable. But the strategy does not completely benefit from letting winners run, and therefore has a somewhat disappointing end balance in comparison with the other top 5 strategies. But nonetheless, if you cannot bear a possible streak of losing trades and a high drawdown, then this might be a strategy that you should investigate further and test on your own preferred coins and trading philosophy. And with these results, I am going to finish this video by thanking you for watching. Please click on the like button if you like this video, and click on the bell icon if you want to get notified on my newest videos. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And again, I'm very happy with your support and feedback on my videos, so please keep this up. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!